Cinema as we know it today was born in the December of 1895 in Paris to the Lumiere brothers. They were the first known people to present projected moving pictures to an audience for a fee, and they did so with the device of their own making, the cinematograph. 2 years after this, the silent era emerged. During this time, cinema mostly lacked dialogue and focused on visual storytelling and comedy. From this, cinema evolved, giving us the great golden age of cinema. The release of The Jazz Singer in 1927 pushed the silent era out of the door and ushered in the era of sound.
Some folks have one, some folks have none.
By 1930, the silent era was truly a thing of the past. The golden age lasted around 40 years before fizzling out in favour of the television age in the 1960s. The meteoric rise of television ensured that every home owned a television, while the Hollywood studio system was collapsing. This collapse, in conjunction with the emergence of television, resulted in a drastic decline of ticket sales. To combat this and draw in consumers from their homes, cinemas enhanced and exploited their medium's technological advantages, such as colour and large image size. The 1950s were the first decade of drive-in movie theatres, stereo sound, widescreen formats, and 3D film technology. The most recent and most dominant age of them all is the computer age, beginning in 1980 and continuing on till today.
Movie theaters are also the latest business to shut down in recent days.
UK-based rival Cineworld warned of a possible bankruptcy.
Cineworld shares plummeted on Monday. That after the movie chain operator failed to find a buyer.
We weren't really surprised when we kind of got the shut.
It was a very dark time.
We did shit ourselves a little bit.
The destruction of an industry.
Landlords wanted their money. We didn't have any money to pay them.
We kind of just all worried together, really.
My name's David Baldwin. I'm the cinema programmer here at the Midlands Arts Centre.
So my name's Lee Nabbs. I am the programmer and owner of the Mockingbird Cinema in Digbeth, Birmingham.
In terms of when we reopened, it took us a very long time to rebuild audiences, and we still are really. We're still adapting to it, to a new environment. Post-COVID is a very different world.
You know, everyone was in the same boat, so I think it took a little bit of time for people to kind of trust coming back to the cinema. You know, there was no actual reported COVID outbreaks in cinemas.
People weren't coming back. We had all these restrictions in place, like the whole industry did have some crazy restrictions.
Audience habits have changed drastically in the time that we were closed. People have got used to doing different things, and so we had to, it was a bit of an uphill climb.
Are you ready for Barbenheimer mania? That's because today's the day.
It's being touted the Barbenheimer phenomenon. Barbie and Oppenheimer films are smashing box office records and revitalising cinemas around the country.
I think it's really helped. I've kind of seen a lot of more familiar faces from Barbie and Oppenheimer. I know speaking to people, it was their kind of first time back to the cinema.
But the marketing for Barbie was absolutely phenomenal. And I think it does give a good blueprint for that kind of thing, because when you saw these events, you know, people were dressing up, people were having special events and all that kind of thing.
Barbie bandwagon shows no sign of slowing down. Makers, Warner Brothers, say it has now passed over $1 billion at the global box office.
Probably the busiest Saturday and Sunday we'd ever seen in our history. It was absolutely insane. It was really exciting that finally people were back.
I think it's just, you know, nice to be able to go out to the cinema. You know, you're not sat around a TV. You know, you can't talk, you can't go on your phone.
If Barbie had been dropped onto a streaming service, no way would it have had any kind of impact that had.
Whoever thought of that idea needs paying a lot of money by a marketing team, because it just became a thing, and it just became this phenomenon.
What does cinema mean to you?
Yes, yeah, big question.
Escapism from the real world.
I think art makes life better, by and large. Cinema is a huge part of that for me.
Life's tough and can be tough for people, and I think cinema's a great place to go sit in the dark and kind of forget your problems.
The cinema is about making memories, and I think that the reason why I do what I do is because my very first memory was going to the cinema with my granddad. It's a shared experience that you can't replicate at home.
I think what we learned was that there's a great film community in Birmingham. People have really got our backs, which is nice, you know. We see familiar faces coming back all the time. So I think the cinema means a lot more to people than we first thought, I think.
obviously cinema.
You're talking to a cinema operator who's done it for 35 years. There's nothing you'll ever say to me about, well, I've got a big telly. I've got a 40-foot screen with a laser projector. I've got Dolby Atmos. I've got very comfortable seats. What I've got in my theatres, you can't replicate at home. Unless you're Jeff Bezos or someone like that.
I think my favourite thing about the Mockingbird is that we can put on events that we like and that we would go to. We can put them out and then the audience turns up for them. We put on a lot of films, but the events do the best for us. I think people like to come out and sit with like-minded people. Independent cinema is kind of building that community around film, and we don't just show films. We want to kind of help develop people's films, and we want them to come back and premiere their films here. We've also started up Real Brum, which is great for the local film community, and we're kind of amazed that we outgrew the Mockingbird on the first event.
Being able to come here and really bounce ideas off people in person, sit down, watch other people's films and learn the process through this as someone who has no education in cinema is absolutely invaluable.
We had Pam Grier here. Hopefully people know who Pam Grier is, but probably best known for Jackie Brown, the Quentin Tarantino film. She was the star of that. She was just on stage, she was talking, she was singing, she was dancing. She was absolutely brilliant, and that was a prime example, I think, of what you can do. I mean, that's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The people who came to that, they're all going to remember that.
For the first time, more people are streaming than watching cable TV.
Streaming services caused us a massive problem, but they jumped on the bandwagon of knowing that cinemas had closed down.
Streaming is fine. I'm not one of these people who think streaming is the devil.
I don't think streaming will ever replace cinema. When you kind of sat at home, the doorbell's ringing, you're looking at your phone, you're never going to get that complete escapism that you're going to get in a cinema.
I do think the two can work together. That's the key, really. And I think we're slowly realising that, and I think the streaming services are realising that.
Showing things in the theatre, it's like a shop window for your films when they get released on platforms. They always do better.
I think more and more streamers now are realising the value of cinema, and they will do theatrical rights for films. They might not have the biggest theatrical window, but I think they kind of know that we have to work together now, and that we aren't really enemies.
Community is important as well. In terms of where we are as an arts centre, right by Cannon Hill Park, we get so many different types of people coming through.
Going to the cinema it's a shared experience that you can't replicate at home. Well, you can to a degree, but it's not the same. It'll never be the same at home. You can't sit in front of a 40-foot screen at home and listen to state-of-the-art sound and watch a comedy or a horror and experience it with all these people that are sitting next to you that are just genuinely strangers who you don't know, but you all, for that one point, connect and you have this experience. That's the beauty of cinema at its rawest.
It's an art form that has been around for 100 or so years, and I really hope will be around for a lot longer.
Especially in this day and age of so much technology all the time, it is vital that we keep that humanity and we see that cinema is an art form.
There are so many lovely, wonderful cinemas out there. And then you've got the independents that have their quirks, that are niche and that let you have a drink and relax and eat food in cinemas and stuff like that. Everything's changing, but for the better.
For me, the whole thing about being a human being is, we can we can create this art to show our emotions and to produce this amazing stuff. That's what sets us apart really from other species, is that we produce these things. We look at our emotions and we look at how we process the world and we produce this great creative work.
I think filmmakers have got to start making better films that create this, that whip up a storm with the general public, because they will go and see it. Word of mouth is the most important thing, and if it's a good film, people will go and see it.
We've got to be careful, I think, that films don't just become content. They just don't become slaves to the algorithm. This is art created by artists.
There's no excuse now. Just go to the cinema and have a good time.
To summarise, cinemas aren't dead. Cinema means something to a lot of people, and as long as people continue to love it, I'm sure it won't die.